The phone slams against my nightstand at 3 a.m. Shrill, insistent. My heart jackhammers as I grab it, already dreading the voice on the other end. It's Mom. Her tone is sharp, brittle, like glass about to shatter. "Lila, we need money. Dad's surgery? Now." The words hit me like a freight train, and suddenly, I'm not in my Chicago apartment anymore. I'm back in Maple Ridge, standing in that cramped kitchen where their whispers cut deeper than any shout. She'll never be enough. My hands tremble so hard I nearly drop the phone. The weight of it all crashes over me. The years of guilt, resentment, and responsibility they've piled onto my shoulders without ever saying thank you. Dad's health hangs by a thread, but it's not just his life at stake. It's mine too. Every dollar I send home feels like another piece of me, disappearing into the void of their expectations. And yet, how can I say no? I squeeze my eyes shut, trying to block out the memories, the way they looked at me when I left town with nothing but a duster coat and a dream. But those faces linger, haunting me. They said I was the family disgrace. Now, I pay all their salaries. And, still, they act like I owe them more. If this story grips you, don't miss what happens next. Hit subscribe for raw, emotional journeys that dig deep into love, legacy, and forgiveness. You won't regret it. Let me tell you about us, my fractured, messy, unforgettable family. I'm Lila Harper, 31 years old, stubborn as hell, and carrying enough guilt to sink a ship. Growing up in Maple Ridge, I was the loud one, the dreamer who didn't fit into their mold of perfection. They wanted quiet obedience. I gave them rebellion wrapped in a big mouth and bigger ambitions. Leaving town felt like freedom then, but it also left scars that never fully healed. Mom, that's Evelyn, is the queen of appearances. She irons her blouses until they're stiff enough to stand on their own and serves casseroles with a smile, so tight it could crack porcelain. But beneath that polished exterior, a woman drowning in pride and regret. She resents me for leaving, for being the black sheep who made our family look less than. Yet every time she calls asking for money, her voice betrays something else. Fear. Fear of losing Dad. Fear of failing him. And maybe failing all of us. Dad, Frank, is harder to describe because he used to be so much more. Back when I was little, he'd lift me onto his shoulders during summer fireworks, laughing like the world couldn't touch him. But addiction stole that man away piece by piece. Now, he's fragile, silent, and tethered to machines. His decline isn't just physical, it's emotional. He stopped looking at me the way he used to, like I mattered. And that loss cuts deeper than anything else. Then there's Caleb, my younger brother. Golden boy Caleb. Or at least he was until life chewed him up and spit him out. At 27, he's a shadow of the guy who once played football under Friday night. Lights. Addiction runs in our bloodline like poison, and Caleb's been fighting it since he was barely legal. When he showed up at my door last month, suitcase torn and eyes hollow, he swore he was clean. But trust doesn't come easy, not after everything we've been through. Still, seeing him reminds me of better days, before the cracks split wide open. There's hope buried somewhere inside him. I can feel it. But whether it's strong enough to save him is anyone's guess. Each of these people carries wounds that shaped who we are today. Mom clings to control because chaos terrifies her. Dad hides behind silence because words hurt too much. Caleb fights demons neither of us fully understands. And me? I run. I've spent a decade running from them, from myself, from the girl who believed she could fix everything if she just tried hard enough. But now, here I am, pulled back into their orbit by guilt, obligation, and maybe, just maybe, a sliver of love I can't quite extinguish. This tangled web of pain and loyalty defines us. It binds us together even as it threatens to tear us apart. If you want to know what happens next, if you crave stories about flawed families, impossible choices, and raw human connection, stick around. You won't find easy answers here, but you'll find truth. The air in my Chicago loft smells like stale coffee and rain-soaked concrete, a far cry from the earthy tang of Maple Ridge. Here, the hum of fluorescent lights buzzes constantly, filling the silence between late-night work sessions. My desk is cluttered, papers stacked haphazardly, pens rolling off edges. But it's mine. Every scuff mark on the hardwood floor tells a story. Late nights spent building something out of nothing. Early mornings where hope felt as fragile as the chipped mug I drink from. It's not home, not really. But it's safe. Or at least it was until their calls started coming more often. Maple Ridge, though. That place lives inside me whether I want it to or not. The scent of damp pine needles after an autumn storm still lingers in my memory, sharp and grounding. Back then, our house groaned under its own weight, wood floors creaking with every step. In the kitchen, sunlight streamed through gauzy curtains, casting soft golden patterns that danced across the table where we ate and argued. That table bore witness to everything. Mom snapping green beans while Dad read the paper, Caleb sneaking bites of dinner before it was ready, and me sitting there, too loud, too restless, desperate for approval I never got. Even now, I can hear the clock ticking above the sink, louder than words most days. Tick-tock, tick-tock. It counted down moments I didn't know were fleeting. Outside, the wind would whip through the trees, making them sway like they were bowing to some invisible force. Winter brought icy drafts that slipped through cracks in the windows, biting at your skin no matter how many blankets you piled on. Summer turned the air thick and heavy, clinging to you like regret. And always, the sound of gravel crunching under tires as neighbors drove by, reminding us we weren't alone but might as well have been. Here in the city, the world moves faster, harsher. Car horns blare outside my window, and strangers rush past without a glance. It's lonely in a different way, but it's also freeing. No one knows about the girl who left her hometown in shame, who sends money home every month just to keep ghosts alive. Until now. Now, Maple Ridge feels closer than ever, creeping into my apartment like fog seeping through cracks. The metallic taste of guilt rises in my throat whenever I think about them. Their faces, their voices, the life I ran from. This isn't just my story. It's theirs too. If you've ever felt torn between running away and going back, if you've carried the weight of family expectations like bricks in your chest, stay with me. This journey will take you places you won't forget. You ever feel like no matter what you do, it's never enough? Like every step forward just digs the hole deeper because they'll never see you the way you need them to? That's me, Lila Harper, paying their bills, keeping their lives afloat, and still getting treated like I'm the problem. It's exhausting, infuriating, and heartbreaking all at once. They said I was the family disgrace when I left Maple Ridge 10 years ago. But now I'm the one holding them together. And they act like it's my fault Dad's sick. Like I somehow caused this mess by chasing a life they didn't approve of. How messed up is that? Here's the thing. They don't just want my money. They want pieces of me, little by little, until there's nothing left. Every phone call feels like a knife twisting in my gut. We need more for Dad's surgery. Caleb's struggling again. You owe us this much. Owe them? Really? After everything? I gave up birthdays, holidays, even funerals because being around them hurt too much, but apparently that doesn't count. All they care about is how much I can spare from my paycheck while pretending I don't exist otherwise. And Dad? He's fading fast. The man who used to laugh so loud it shook the walls is gone, replaced by someone who barely looks at me anymore. Is it guilt? Resentment? Or does he honestly not remember the girl who worshipped him? who begged for his attention only to be told she was too loud, too wild, too much. What do you say to someone who shaped your whole world and then let it crumble without a word? Do you fight for him, or do you walk away before the weight crushes you completely? Then there's Caleb, my golden boy brother who fell harder than anyone saw coming. When he showed up on my doorstep last month, suitcase falling apart and eyes bloodshot, I wanted to slam the door in his face. Not because I don't love him, I do, but because loving him means risking everything I've built. He swears he's clean this time, but I've heard that before. Watching him spiral almost killed me once. I'm not sure I can survive it again. But if I turn him away, am I any better than them? Am I just another person who writes him off when he needs help the most? And Mom, oh Mom, she's the worst kind of complicated. Her voice cuts like glass when she calls, demanding things I can't give her. Money, answers, absolution. She acts like she's entitled to all of it, like I somehow owe her for ruining her perfect image of a happy family. But here's the kicker. It wasn't me who broke us. Was it? Maybe I did. Maybe leaving made everything worse, and now I'm stuck trying to fix something that might already be beyond saving. The truth is, I don't know what to do. Do I keep sacrificing myself for people who won't even meet me halfway? Or do I finally say no, knowing it might mean losing them forever? What would you do if you were me? Would you stay and fight, hoping love could conquer decades of resentment? Or would you run, protecting yourself from the pain of rejection one last time? Because here's the real conflict. It's not just about them. It's about me. Who am I if I'm not the strong one, the responsible one, the one who fixes everything? If I stop carrying this weight, will I still recognize myself? And if I don't put it down soon, will I lose the chance to find out? Stick with me. This story isn't over yet, and trust me, you're going to want to hear how it ends. It starts with a knock at the door, sharp, insistent, like it's daring me to ignore it. I'm sitting on the couch in my Chicago loft, staring at spreadsheets on my laptop, trying to pretend I don't hear it. But I do. Of course I do. And when I open the door, there he is, Caleb, my little brother. Except he doesn't look so golden anymore. His face is pale, his hair unkempt, and his eyes, they're hollow, like someone scooped out all the light that used to be there. He's holding a duffel bag that looks like it's seen better days, its zipper half broken and fabric frayed. "Lila," he says, his voice cracking, "I need help." For a second I freeze, not because I'm surprised. He's shown up uninvited before, but because of how much older he seems. This isn't the Caleb who laughed too loud or played football under Friday night lights. This is a man who's been beaten down by life, by choices, by addiction. A part of me wants to slam the door shut right then and there. Because let's be real, helping Caleb isn't just about giving him a place to crash for a few nights. It's about risking everything I've worked for, every ounce of stability I've clawed back after leaving Maple Ridge. If I let him in, I'm signing up for sleepless nights, constant worry, and the very real possibility that he'll relapse again. Can I handle that? Do I even want to? But I can't turn him away. Not completely. So I step aside, letting him shuffle into my apartment. The air shifts instantly. He brings with him the faint smell of cigarettes and something sharper, chemical, maybe alcohol. My stomach twists as I watch him drop the duffel bag by the door and collapse onto the couch. For a moment, neither of us speaks. Then he blurts out, "I'm clean, Lila. I swear." His hands are shaking as he runs them through his hair, and I notice the tremor in his voice. Clean? Maybe. For now. But trust doesn't come easy. Not after last time. Last time was 2 years ago, when he called me from some motel in Indiana, begging for cash. I sent him money, thinking it would get him off the streets, only to find out later he blew it on pills. Pills that almost killed him. I flew down there, found him unconscious in a dingy bathroom, and spent 3 days convincing him to check into rehab. 3 days of tears, guilt trips, and promises neither of us knew if we could keep. After that, I told myself I was done saving him, done enabling, done carrying everyone else's problems while mine piled up unnoticed. But here he is again, looking at me with those same wide, pleading eyes, and I feel that familiar tug in my chest, the one that says, "You're all he has left." The next morning, I wake up early, coffee brewing as I brace myself for what comes next. Caleb's asleep on the couch, curled up in an old blanket I tossed over him last night. He looks younger when he sleeps, more like the kid who used to sneak into my room to borrow my Walkman. I sit across from him, sipping my coffee, watching his chest rise and fall. Part of me wonders if this is a test, if they sent him here, knowing I wouldn't turn him away. Mom's voice echoes in my head. "He's your brother, Lila. You fix things. That's what you do. Fix things. Like I'm some kind of miracle worker instead of a person who's barely holding herself together." When Caleb finally wakes up, we talk, or rather, he talks, and I listen. He tells me about losing his job, about bouncing between friends' couches until no one would take him anymore, about the shame of calling me, of admitting he's failed yet again. "I didn't know where else to go," he admits, his voice breaking. "You're the only one who hasn't given up on me." Those words hit hard, sinking deep into places I thought I'd patched up long ago. Is that true? Am I really the only one still standing by him? Or am I just the easiest target, the one least likely to say no? We make a deal. He stays with me for now, but he has to follow rules. No drinking, no drugs, no disappearing without telling me where he's going. He nods, agreeing to everything, but I see the flicker of doubt in his eyes. Doubt about himself, about me, about whether this will actually work. And honestly, I feel it too. What if I'm setting us both up for failure? What if I pour everything I have into helping him, and he throws it all away again? What then? Still, I try. We spend the next few weeks working side by side, cleaning up the messes he's made both literally and figuratively. I teach him how to balance a budget, how to write resumes, how to navigate sobriety in a world that feels designed to break people like him. Slowly, painfully, he starts to change, or at least it seems that way. There are moments when I catch him smiling genuinely, laughing at something stupid on TV, and for a brief second, I let myself believe we might actually make it through this. Maybe forgiveness is possible. Maybe family isn't doomed to fail. But underneath the surface, tension simmers. Every time his phone buzzes late at night, every time he hesitates before answering my questions, I wonder, is this the calm before another storm? Because nothing ever stays fixed forever, does it? Least of all families like ours. If you've ever had someone you love teetering on the edge, you know exactly how exhausting it is to hold on while bracing for the fall. Would you do what I did? Or would you walk away before it's too late? For a while it feels like we're okay. Like maybe, just maybe, we've turned a corner. Caleb starts waking up earlier, making his bed, even helping me clean the kitchen after dinner. He gets a part-time job at a coffee shop down the street, and though the hours are long and the pay is crap, he seems lighter. There's a spark in his eyes again, faint but there, like the first hint of sunrise after a night that felt endless. We fall into a rhythm, mornings spent sipping cheap coffee, afternoons working separately, evenings sitting on the couch watching old movies neither of us has seen before. It's not perfect. It'll never be perfect. But for the first time in years, I let myself believe that maybe this can work. Maybe I didn't make a mistake letting him back in. He starts talking about the future, something he hasn't done in ages. I think I could get certified as a mechanic, he says one night, flipping through a magazine he found somewhere. You remember how Dad used to fix cars? I could do that. His voice wavers, unsure, but there's hope buried underneath. I nod, encouraging him, because that's what I'm supposed to do, right? Be the strong one, the steady hand guiding him forward, but inside I feel torn. Part of me wants to grab onto this moment, hold it tight, and never let go. Another part, the quieter, darker part, whispers that it's too good to last. People don't change overnight, especially not people like Caleb, not people like us. Still, I push those thoughts away. For weeks, things stay calm. Too calm, if I'm being honest. The calls from Mom become less frequent, which should feel like relief, but instead leaves me uneasy. Why isn't she checking in? Does she think everything's fine now? Or is she waiting for the other shoe to drop, just like me? Then there's Caleb himself. He's careful, almost too careful, like he's walking on eggshells. Every time his phone buzzes, he glances at it quickly, then shoves it into his pocket without saying a word. When I ask who's texting him, he brushes it off. Just some guy from work. Just some guy, sure. Except I notice the way his hands shake when he thinks I'm not looking, the way he lingers in the shower longer than usual, the way he avoids eye contact when I ask how his day went. None of it adds up, and yet I tell myself I'm overthinking. He's doing better, isn't he? One evening, we sit together on the fire escape outside my apartment, legs dangling over the edge, sharing a cigarette. Okay, his cigarette. I quit. Years ago. The city hums below us, distant car horns blending with the chatter of strangers passing by. Thanks for sticking with me, Lila, he says suddenly, his voice soft but serious. I know I don't deserve it. My chest tightens because, yeah, he doesn't deserve it, not really. But here I am anyway. You're my brother, I say finally, exhaling smoke into the cool night air. What else am I supposed to do? But later, lying in bed staring at the ceiling, I can't shake the feeling that something's off. Something small, barely noticeable, like the faintest crack in a window pane. Is it him? Me? Both of us? What if this fragile peace we've built is just a mirage, a temporary reprieve before everything falls apart again? Because deep down, I know Caleb isn't fixed. Not entirely. No amount of routine or positive thinking erases the scars he carries. The same ones I carry too. And what happens when the weight of those scars becomes too much to bear? Will he break again? Will I? If you've ever stood on shaky ground, pretending everything's okay while secretly bracing for impact, you understand how exhausting it is. Would you trust the quiet moments? Or would you keep waiting for the storm? Because storms always come eventually, right? It happens on a Tuesday. Of course it does. Because life loves to kick you when you least expect it, and Tuesdays are supposed to be safe, mundane, uneventful. I'm at work, buried under spreadsheets and client emails, when my phone buzzes on the desk. It's Caleb. My stomach sinks before I even answer because he never calls me during the day unless something's wrong. Hey, I say, trying to sound casual, like this isn't already twisting knots in my chest. What's up? There's a pause on the other end, just long enough to make my pulse spike. Then his voice comes through, shaky and low. I messed up, Lila. Those 4 words hit me like a punch to the gut. No greeting, no explanation, just that raw admission, stripped bare of any attempt to sugarcoat it. My mind races immediately to the worst-case scenario. Drugs, alcohol, whatever it is. It's bad enough for him to call me like this. I borrowed some money from someone, he stammers, each word faltering like he's fighting to get them out. Someone I shouldn't have. Borrowed money? From who? And why does my skin crawl at the way he says someone? Caleb. I snap, sharper than I mean to. What did you do? He hesitates again, and I swear I can hear the weight of whatever secret he's carrying crushing him through the phone line. Finally, he blurts it out. I owe them $500. Okay? They said if I don't pay by Friday. His voice trails off, but he doesn't need to finish. I know exactly what he means. Loan sharks, drug dealers, people who don't care about second chances or sobriety. They care about cash. $500 might as well be $50,000 for how impossible it feels right now. My hands grip the edge of my desk so hard they ache. Are you serious? I hiss, lowering my voice as coworkers glance over curiously. You told me you were clean. You promised. I want to scream, to throw the phone across the room, but instead, I force myself to breathe. Losing it won't fix anything. Not now. I am clean, he insists, desperation bleeding into his tone. I didn't spend it on drugs, I swear. I needed rent money, and I thought I could handle it. But they're not normal people, Lila. They're coming after me. The fear in his voice is unmistakable, raw and real, and it guts me. Because this isn't just about money anymore. It's about survival. If these guys are as dangerous as he says, Caleb isn't just risking himself. He's putting both of us in jeopardy. By the time I hang up, my head is spinning. What am I supposed to do? Pay off another mess he's made, knowing full well it won't solve anything? Or draw a line in the sand and tell him to figure it out himself? But then what? Let him face those people alone? The thought makes me sick. When I get home that evening, Caleb's pacing the living room like a caged animal. His eyes dart toward me the second I walk in, searching for answers, for reassurance, for salvation. Did you think about what we talked about? He asks, his voice trembling. No, I snap, dropping my bag onto the counter, because thinking won't change the fact that you lied to me. Again. The words taste bitter, but they're true. How many times can I keep bailing him out before I drown too? He looks down, shame written all over his face. I'm sorry, he whispers. I didn't know what else to do. And that's the thing. He never does. He acts first, thinks later, and leaves me to pick up the pieces. Only this time, the stakes are higher. These aren't just bills or broken promises. It's his safety. Maybe even his life. The next morning, I sit at the kitchen table with my laptop open, staring at my bank account balance. $500 would leave me scraping by until payday, but it's possible. Barely. Except giving him the money feels like admitting defeat. Not just for him, but for me too. Like saying, this is who we are now. Broken, helpless, trapped in a cycle neither of us knows how to break. But what choice do I have? Ignore the problem and hope it goes away? That's not an option. So I transfer the money, my fingers hovering over the keyboard for what feels like hours before finally hitting send. As soon as it's done, relief washes over me. But it's fleeting. Because deep down, I know this isn't the end. This is just another Band-Aid slapped over a wound that refuses to heal. If you've ever been backed into a corner, forced to choose between doing the wrong thing for the right reasons or walking away entirely, you know how suffocating it feels. Would you sacrifice yourself to save someone else? Or would you step back and let them fall, hoping they'd learn their lesson once and for all? It's Thanksgiving, and somehow we're all sitting around the same table again. The irony isn't lost on me. This holiday is supposed to be about gratitude, family, and togetherness, but here we are, barely holding it together. Mom's turkey is dry, like always, and Dad sits at the head of the table, silent except for the occasional cough that rattles his chest. Caleb picks at his food, avoiding everyone's eyes, while Mom drones on about how expensive prescriptions are these days. I sit there, gripping my fork so tightly my knuckles turn white, wondering how long it will take before the cracks show. And then it happens. Out of nowhere, Caleb blurts out, "Mom, you knew Dad was drinking again, didn't you?" The room goes deathly quiet. Forks clatter against plates. Even the air seems to freeze. Mom's face flushes red, her lips pressing into a thin line. "What kind of question is that?" she snaps, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. But Caleb doesn't back down. He leans forward, his hands trembling as he says, "You could have stopped him. You could have done something. Instead, you just let it happen." That's when everything explodes. Mom slams her palms on the table, shouting about how she's done everything she can to keep this family intact, how no one appreciates her sacrifices. Caleb shouts back, tears streaming down his face, accusing her of enabling Dad's addiction instead of confronting it. And through it all, Dad stays silent, staring at his plate like it holds the answers to questions none of us have figured out yet. I feel like I'm drowning. The noise is deafening, the accusations flying faster than I can process them. My heart pounds in my ears as I watch the people I love tear each other apart. Finally, I stand up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Stop!" I yell, my voice cracking under the weight of everything unsaid. They turn to look at me, their faces flushed with anger and hurt, and suddenly they're waiting for me to fix it. Again. But I don't know how to fix this. Not anymore. So instead, I say the one thing I promised myself I'd never admit. You act like I abandoned you, but maybe I left because I couldn't save you. The words hang in the air, heavy and raw, like smoke after a fire. No one speaks. Even Mom looks stunned, her mouth opening and closing without sound. The rest of the meal passes in tense silence. Afterward, I retreat to the porch, needing space to breathe. Caleb joins me eventually, sitting beside me without saying a word. For a while, we just sit there, listening to the wind rustle through the trees. Then he asks softly, "Do you think we'll ever forgive each other?" His question hits me like a punch to the gut. Forgiveness. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? Just 2 syllables. Easy to say, but impossible to live. Yet here we are, tangled in guilt and resentment, carrying wounds that won't heal because we refuse to acknowledge them. Do I forgive Caleb for lying to me, for dragging me into danger time and time again? Do I forgive Mom for blaming me for things I had no control over? Do I forgive Dad for being absent, both physically and emotionally, during the years when I needed him most? Or do I stop pretending forgiveness is even possible? Maybe some hurts run too deep, too wide, to ever truly mend. Maybe forgiving them means letting go of the anger, and the anger is the only thing keeping me tethered to them. Without it, what's left? Love? Loyalty? Or just an empty shell of what used to be? Later that night, as I lie awake in bed, I replay the argument over and over in my head. What would you do if you were me? Would you try to bridge the gap between broken pieces, hoping to piece them back together? Or would you walk away, choosing yourself over the chaos of trying to save everyone else? Because that's the real dilemma here. It's not just about whether I forgive them, it's about whether I believe they deserve it. And maybe the hardest part is realizing that forgiveness isn't just about them. It's about me. Letting go of the past means accepting that I can't change it, no matter how hard I try. It means admitting that I'm not responsible for fixing everything or anyone. But if I don't forgive, am I just perpetuating the cycle of pain? Am I becoming exactly what I've spent my whole life running from? By morning, I still don't have answers. All I know is that staying feels like suffocating, but leaving feels like betrayal. Either way, I lose something, and maybe that's the point. Families aren't perfect. They break, they bend. sometimes beyond repair. But even shattered bonds leave traces of love behind. The question is that love worth fighting for? Or is it better to let it go? It's Christmas Eve, and the city feels eerily quiet, like it's holding its breath. Snow falls steadily outside my window, blanketing everything in a deceptive kind of calm. Inside, I'm pacing the length of my apartment, phone clutched in, my hand staring at Caleb's name on the screen. He hasn't answered my texts all day, and that gnawing pit in my stomach has grown into something sharp and unrelenting. Something's wrong. I can feel it in my bones, but I don't want to. Call him, not yet. Calling means admitting fear, and fear makes me weak. Or at least that's what I tell myself. Finally, I dial his number. It rings once, twice, 3 times before going to voicemail. "Caleb, where are you?" I demand, trying to keep my voice steady but failing miserably. "Call me back, please." The word catches in my throat, small and desperate, and I hate myself for saying it. But this isn't just about him anymore. It's about survival. If he's out there alone, facing whoever or whatever he owes, then none of us are safe. Not really. An hour later, my phone buzzes. It's not Caleb. It's an unknown number. My heart lurches as I answer. "Lila Harper?" a gruff voice asks. My blood runs cold. "Who is this?" I manage, though my voice shakes. "We found your brother," the man says, and suddenly I can't breathe. "He's alive," he adds, quickly, almost impatiently, like he's annoyed I jumped to the worst conclusion. "But he needs help. Meet us at St. Vincent's Hospital." The drive to the hospital feels endless, every stoplight stretching longer than the last. My hands grip the steering wheel so tightly they ache, knuckles white against the black leather. What happened? Is he hurt? Did those people, those loan sharks, find him? Each question piles onto the next until my mind is a chaotic mess of worst-case scenarios. When I finally arrive, the sterile smell of antiseptic hits me like a wall as I rush through the sliding doors. At the front desk, I give Caleb's name, my voice cracking with urgency. The nurse nods, her expression unreadable, and gestures toward the ER waiting area. That's where I see them. 2 men in dark coats standing near the vending machines, their postures tense, eyes scanning the room. They're not doctors. They're trouble. And when one of them notices me, his gaze locks onto mine like a predator spotting prey. My pulse spikes as I force myself to look away, pretending I didn't see them. But they know I did. Of course they do. I find Caleb in a curtained-off exam room, lying on a gurney with an IV hooked up to his arm. His face is pale, his lips chapped, but he's awake. "What happened?" I whisper, pulling the curtain shut behind me. He winces, glancing toward the door like he expects someone to burst in any second. "They came after me," he admits, his voice hoarse. "I tried to run, but..." He trails off, shaking his head. "I didn't have the money, Lila. I thought if I could stall them..." "You thought wrong!" I snap, anger bubbling over despite myself. "Do you have any idea how dangerous these people are? Why didn't you tell me sooner?" He flinches at my tone, guilt flashing across his face. "I didn't want to drag you into it," he mutters. "Not again. But it's too late for that. We both know it. Whatever line existed between us, and the world outside has been crossed, and now there's no going back." As if to prove the point, the curtain jerks open, revealing one of the men from the waiting area. He steps inside without invitation, his presence suffocating. "You're Caleb's sister," he states flatly, his eyes narrowing as he sizes me up. "We need to talk." My instincts scream to run, to grab Caleb and get out while we still can. But where would we go? These people don't play games. They track you down, wear you down until you have nothing left to give. So instead, I stand my ground, forcing myself to meet his gaze. He doesn't owe you anything, I say, my voice trembling but firm. I paid what he owed. Leave him alone. The man smirks, a cruel twist of his lips that sends ice coursing through my veins. Money's not the only thing due, he replies, stepping closer. Your brother made promises. Promises mean something to us. Behind him, Caleb shifts uncomfortably, guilt radiating off him in waves. What did he promise them? What else is he hiding? The questions claw at me, but I push them aside because right now, survival matters more than answers. Whatever it is, I say, raising my chin defiantly. You deal with me, not him. For a moment, the man just stares at me, weighing his options. Then he leans in, close enough that I can smell the faint trace of cigarette smoke clinging to his jacket. Fine, he growls. But remember, you stepped into this mess. Don't expect us to go easy on you. When he leaves, the tension in the room doesn't ease. It intensifies. Caleb looks at me, shame written all over his face. I'm sorry, he whispers, tears welling in his eyes. I didn't mean for this to happen. I want to yell at him, to shake him until he understands the gravity of what he's done. But I don't. Instead, I sit beside him, taking his hand in mine. Because yelling won't fix this. Nothing will. As we sit there, surrounded by the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant murmur of nurses, I realize something terrifying. This isn't just Caleb's fight anymore. It's mine too. And if I don't figure out how to protect him, and myself, we'll both end up paying the price. If you were me, would you stay and fight, knowing the odds are stacked against you? Or would you walk away, hoping to save yourself before it's too late? Because let's be honest, sometimes walking away feels like the bravest thing you can do. But is it the right thing? The clock ticks louder than it should, each second slicing through the heavy silence of the hospital room. Caleb's asleep now, or pretending to be. But I can't sit still. My mind races faster than my heart, replaying every detail from tonight. The men in dark coats, their cold eyes, their veiled threats. They didn't just come for Caleb, they came for me too. And that changes everything. What do you do when the stakes aren't just life or death, they're everything? When the people you love are caught in a web so tangled there's no clear way out? I've spent years running, fixing, surviving, but this feels different. This isn't about money anymore. It's about power, control, fear. And if I don't find a way to stop them, none of us will make it out unscathed. I glance at Caleb again, his chest rising and falling unevenly under the thin hospital blanket. He looks smaller somehow, more fragile than I've ever seen him. For all his mistakes, he's still my brother, the kid who used to beg me to teach him how to ride a bike, the teenager who snuck into my room to borrow CDs without asking. How did we end up here? How did I let it get this far? The answer gnaws at me. I didn't let anything. Life doesn't wait for permission. One bad decision leads to another, and before you know it, you're drowning in consequences you never saw coming. But knowing that doesn't make it easier. Knowing that doesn't fix anything. All it does is remind me that I'm not invincible. Neither is Caleb. Neither is anyone. My phone buzzes in my pocket, startling me. It's Mom. Of course it is. Because why wouldn't she call right now? Her timing has always been impeccable in the worst possible way. I hesitate before answering, bracing myself for whatever guilt trip or demand she's about to unleash. Lila, she says immediately, her voice sharp with accusation. Where are you? Why haven't you called? Caleb's in the hospital, I reply flatly, cutting her off before she can say more. There's a pause on the other end, long enough for me to wonder if she hung up. Then, softly, almost hesitantly, "Is he okay?" The question catches me off guard, not because she cares, but because it sounds genuine. Maybe even scared. For a moment, I consider telling her the truth, laying it all out. The debt, the danger, the men who won't stop until they get what they want. But what good would that do? She'd either panic or blame me, or both, and neither helps right now. "He'll be fine." I lie, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "I'll handle it." Handle it. That phrase feels like acid on my tongue, burning away whatever faith I had left in myself. Because handling it means facing them again. Alone. Caleb can't fight this battle. He barely survived the last one. Dad's too sick to even understand what's happening. And Mom, well, she's better off not knowing. Which leaves me. Just me. As dawn breaks outside the window, painting the sky in shades of gray and pink, I realize something terrifying. I don't have a plan. Not really. Paying off the debt bought us time, but it didn't solve the problem. These men don't care about money. They care about control. And as long as they think they can manipulate us, they won't stop. So what's next? Run? Fight? Surrender? None of those options feel safe or sane. And then there's the bigger question, the one I've been avoiding since this whole nightmare began. What happens if I fail? If I can't protect Caleb? If I can't protect myself? What becomes of us? Will we disappear, swallowed by the same darkness that claimed so many others? Or will we survive? Only to spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders, waiting for the other shoe to drop. If you've ever faced a moment where everything hinges on one impossible choice, you know how paralyzing it feels. Would you risk everything for the people you love, even if it meant losing yourself in the process? Or would you save yourself, hoping someone else steps in to pick up the pieces? Because that's the crossroads I'm standing at right now, and I don't know which path to take. But one thing's for sure. This story isn't over yet. Stick around to see how it unfolds, because trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Follow now to dive deeper into raw emotions, relentless tension, and the kind of choices that leave scars. I walk into the dimly lit diner on the outskirts of the city, my boots scraping against the scuffed tile floor. The air smells like burnt coffee and stale grease, but I barely notice. My focus is razor sharp, zeroed in on the booth at the back where they're waiting. 2 men, same dark coats, same cold eyes. They glance up as I approach, their expressions unreadable but dangerous, like predators sizing up prey. My stomach churns, acid rising in my throat, but I force myself to keep moving. This isn't just about Caleb anymore. It's about me, who I am, what I'm willing to do. "Lila Harper," one of them says, leaning back in the booth with a smirk that makes my skin crawl. "Took your sweet time getting here." His voice is casual, almost mocking. But there's an edge to it, a threat wrapped in silk. I slide into the seat across from them, gripping the edge of the table to steady my trembling hands. "Let's cut the crap," I say, my voice sharper than I expect. "You want something from me. Tell me what it is." The second man chuckles, low and menacing. "Straight to business, huh? Guess we don't need pleasantries." He pulls out a folded piece of paper and slides it across the table. It's a number, $5,000, and, beneath it, a date circled in red, 3 days from now. "This is what you owe us now," he says, his tone flat. Interest accrues fast when people don't pay their debts. My chest tightens. 5,000? That's impossible. Even if I drained every account, sold everything I own, I couldn't come close to that amount. But I don't let the panic show. Not yet. Instead, I lean forward, meeting his gaze head on, You got your money, I remind him, my voice low and steady despite the storm inside me. I paid what Caleb owed. We're square. The first man laughs, a harsh grating sound that sets my teeth on edge. Square? He repeats, shaking his head. You think this is about money? You stepped into our world, sweetheart. Now you play by our rules. His words hit like a punch to the gut, knocking the wind out of me. This isn't about settling a debt. It's about control, power, revenge. And suddenly, I understand. They'll never stop. Not unless I make them. For a moment, I consider walking away, telling them to go to hell. But then what? Wait for them to come after Caleb again? After me? No. Running isn't an option. Not this time. So instead, I dig deep, finding a reservoir of anger and determination I didn't know I had. Fine, I snap, slamming my hand on the table hard enough to rattle the salt shaker. If it's not about money, then tell me what it is about. What do you want? They exchange a glance, amused by my defiance, or maybe surprised by it. Then the second man leans in, his face inches from mine. We want you to disappear, he says simply. Leave town. Forget about your brother. Let him deal with his own messes. His words are calm, almost reasonable, but the message is clear. Abandon Caleb or suffer the consequences. Every muscle in my body tenses, rage boiling, beneath the surface. How dare they? How dare they try to rip apart the only family I have left? But before I can respond, memories flood back. Dad's silence, Mom's resentment, Caleb's broken promises. All the years of carrying their burdens alone, sacrificing everything while they looked the other way. Is this really worth it, Amal? I strong enough to fight for them, even though they've never fought for me? The internal battle rages, tearing me apart. Part of me wants to scream yes, to tell these men exactly where they can shove their threats. But another part whispers quietly, dangerously, maybe they're right. Maybe letting go is the bravest thing I can do. Maybe saving myself means leaving everyone else behind. But then I picture Caleb, lying in that hospital bed, scared and vulnerable. I hear his voice cracking as he begged me not to give up on him. And I realize something I should have known all along. Family isn't perfect. It's messy, painful, infuriating, but it's also love, loyalty, connection, and no amount of fear or guilt will ever erase that. So I sit up straighter, squaring my shoulders, and look them dead in the eye. Here's the deal, I say, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. You leave Caleb alone. From now on, you deal with me. If you hurt him, if you so much as look at him, I'll burn whatever twisted little empire you've built to the ground. Understand? The room goes silent, tension crackling like static electricity. For a moment, neither of them moves, their faces unreadable masks. Then the first man smirks again, leaning back in his seat. Brave words, he mutters, tapping the table with his knuckles. Let's see how far they get you. As I stand to leave, my legs feel like lead, but my resolve is ironclad. I don't know what comes next, whether they'll honor their word or come after us anyway, but I do know one thing. I won't back down. Not now. Not ever. Would you risk everything for the ones you love, even if it meant losing yourself in the process? Or would you save yourself, hoping someone else steps in to pick up the pieces? Because that's the choice I made, and it's a choice I'll live with forever. I'm halfway out the door of the diner when it happens. The twist that flips everything on its head. A hand grabs my arm, jerking me back so hard I stumble against the glass window. My heart slams into my throat as I turn, expecting one of the men from the booth. But it's not them. It's Caleb. Caleb? I gasp, shock rooting me to the spot. He looks terrible, his face pale, his eyes wild, but he's alive. And somehow, impossibly, he's here. What are you doing? I hiss, glancing over my shoulder toward the booth where the men still sit, watching us with unreadable expressions. You're supposed to be in the hospital. I couldn't stay, he says, his voice trembling but fierce. Not after what you did for me. His grip tightens on my arm, and for a moment, I think he's going to drag me out of there. Instead, he pulls something from his jacket, a crumpled envelope, and shoves it into my hands. This changes everything. Inside the envelope is a letter, handwritten in shaky script I barely recognize. At first glance, it seems ordinary, like any old note someone might leave behind. But then I see the date. 2 months ago. 2 months before Dad died. My breath catches as I skim the words, each sentence hitting harder than the last. Lila, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I don't know how much time I have left, but I need you to hear this from me. None of this was your fault. You didn't break us. You saved us. Leaving wasn't running away. It was giving us space to survive, without you holding us together all the time. My vision blurs as tears well up, hot and uncontrollable. The room tilts, sounds fading into a distant hum. Dad wrote this? Before he passed? Why didn't anyone tell me? Why did they keep it hidden until now? My knees buckle, and Caleb catches me, his arm steadying me even though he's shaking too. He wanted you to know, he whispers, his voice breaking. He wanted you to forgive yourself. The weight of those words crashes over me like a tidal wave. All these years, I've carried guilt like armor, blaming myself for every crack in our family's foundation. I believed their whispers, that I was selfish, reckless, unworthy. But Dad saw me differently. He saw strength where others saw failure, love where others saw abandonment. And suddenly, I realized the truth. I wasn't the problem. I was the solution. Behind us, the men rise from their seats, their movements slow and deliberate. One of them clears his throat, drawing our attention. Touching, he drawls, sarcasm dripping from his tone. But it doesn't change anything. Except, it does. Because now I understand something I didn't before. Fear only controls you if you let it. Guilt only holds you back if you refuse to release it. And love, it's stronger than either. I straighten, clutching the letter like a lifeline. You're wrong, I say, louder than I mean to. It changes everything. Without waiting for a response, I grab Caleb's hand and push past them, stepping out into the cold December air. The snow falls heavier now, coating the world in white silence. For the first time in years, I feel free. Not because the danger is gone, but because I finally know who I am, who I've always been. If you crave stories where unexpected twists flip everything upside down, leaving you breathless and reeling, don't miss what comes next. Follow now to uncover secrets, redemption, and choices that will haunt you long after the final word. Would you trust a revelation that changes everything? Or would you cling to the pain you know? Because sometimes, the hardest truths set us free. Standing in the snow outside that diner, clutching Dad's letter like it's the last piece of solid ground I'll ever find, I finally understand something I've been running from my entire life. Forgiveness isn't just for them, it's for me. All these years, I've carried guilt like a second skin, letting it shape every decision, every sacrifice, every moment of anger and resentment. I thought leaving Maple Ridge made me the villain, but Dad saw the truth before I did. Sometimes, saving someone means giving them space to save themselves. The wind bites at my cheeks as Caleb stands beside me, his hand still gripping mine like an anchor. Neither of us speaks. We don't need to. The weight of what just happened hangs between us, heavy but strangely liberating. For so long, I believed I had to fix everything, to be the strong one, the responsible one, the one who held it all together. But standing here now, with Dad's words echoing in my mind, I realize how wrong I was. Love isn't about control or obligation. It's about trust. Trust that people can stumble and rise again. Trust that they're capable of their own redemption, even if it hurts along the way. I think about Mom, her sharp tongue and brittle pride. About Dad, silent and broken, but trying to protect me in his own quiet way. About Caleb, lost and messy, but fighting harder than anyone gives him credit for. And then there's me, the girl who left town with nothing but a duffel bag and a head full of dreams, only to return years later carrying the weight of everyone else's expectations. When did I stop believing I deserve freedom? When did I start thinking love meant sacrificing myself completely? Dad's letter answered that question without even trying. You didn't break us. You saved us. Those words are etched into my soul now, carving away the lies I told myself for years. Leaving wasn't abandonment. It was survival. It was hope. It was faith that maybe, just maybe, they'd figure out how to stand on their own while I found my footing too. And yeah, they fell apart without me. But isn't that part of life? Breaking so you can rebuild stronger than before? Caleb squeezes my hand, pulling me back to the present. What do we do now? He asks, his voice soft but steady. His eyes search mine, looking for answers I'm not sure I have. But this time, I don't feel the need to fix everything. This time, I know the answer doesn't rest solely on my shoulders. We take it one step at a time, I tell him, my voice firm despite the storm swirling inside me. Together. The men from the diner watch us from the doorway, shadows against the dim light spilling onto the sidewalk. They haven't moved, haven't spoken, not yet. Maybe they'll come after us again. Maybe they won't. Either way, I'm done living, in fear. Done letting guilt dictate my choices. If they want to fight, fine. But this time, I'm not fighting alone. This time, I'm fighting for something real. Family. Not the perfect, picture-perfect kind, but the messy, complicated kind that breaks and heals and breaks again, and somehow keeps going anyway. As we walk away, the city lights blur through my tears, reflecting off the fresh layer of snow like tiny stars scattered across the pavement. My heart feels lighter than it has in years, even though the road ahead is uncertain. Because here's the thing. Transformation isn't about erasing the past. It's about learning to carry it differently. It's about finding strength in vulnerability, courage in chaos, beauty in imperfection. And maybe, just maybe, it's about realizing that love doesn't demand perfection. It demands effort. Effort to show up, to stay, to try again even when it feels impossible. Would you have the courage to face your deepest fears, confront your harshest truths, and emerge stronger on the other side? Or would you cling to the pain, afraid of what might happen if you let go? Because the truth is, growth hurts, but staying, stuck hurts more. If this story resonates with you, if it makes you reflect on your own struggles and triumphs, share your thoughts below. What would you do differently if you could rewrite your past? How far would you go to reclaim yourself? Transformation starts with one choice. What will yours be? I don't know how long we walked through the snow, Caleb and me, side by side, but miles apart in our thoughts. The city feels eerily quiet, like it's holding its breath along with us. Every step crunches underfoot, loud and deliberate, grounding me in the moment despite the chaos swirling inside my head. For so long, I thought resolving this mess meant paying off debts, confronting enemies, or somehow forcing everyone to see things my way. But now I realize that resolution isn't about fixing everything. It's about choosing what matters most. When we finally stop, we're standing in front of an old park bench near Lake Michigan. It's covered in a thick layer of snow, untouched since the storm rolled in. Caleb brushes some of it away with his sleeve before sitting down. His shoulders slumped, but his eyes clearer than they've been in weeks. He looks at me, really looks at me, and says something that hits harder than anything else tonight. You saved me again, Lila, even when I didn't deserve it. His words catch me off guard, not because they're surprising, but because they're true. I did save him. Again. And maybe that's okay. Maybe saving people isn't about keeping them from falling. It's about helping them get back up after they do. Because here's the thing. No one gets out of life without scars. Not me, not Caleb, not even Mom and Dad. What defines us isn't how many times we fall. It's how many times we choose to rise. The men from the diner haven't followed us. Maybe they will tomorrow, or next week, or never. Right now, though, that doesn't matter. What matters is the decision I made back. There, the choice to stop running, to face whatever comes next instead of hiding from it. That's not just courage. It's freedom. Freedom from guilt, from fear, from the lies I told myself for years about who I am and what I'm worth. And yeah, it hurts. God, does it hurt? But it also feels right. Like I'm finally stepping into the person I was always meant to be. Caleb leans forward, resting his elbows on his knees, and lets out a shaky laugh. You know, he says, staring out at the frozen lake. I used to think you left because you hated us. But now I think you left because you loved us too much. His voice cracks on the last word. And suddenly I'm crying again. Silent. Tears sliding down my cheeks as I nod. Yeah, I whisper, barely audible over the wind. That's exactly why. We sit there for a while, watching the waves crash against the shore beneath layers of ice. It's peaceful, in a way I haven't felt in years. Peaceful and painful all at once, like saying goodbye to someone you'll miss but knowing they're better off without you. Except this time, I'm not saying goodbye. This time, I'm letting go, not of them, but of the version of myself that thought love meant sacrifice. Love means effort, yes, but it also means boundaries, trust, space, to breathe. Eventually, Caleb stands, brushing snow off his jacket. We should go, he says softly, offering me a hand. I take it, pulling myself up, and together we start walking back toward the city lights. Each step feels lighter than the last, like I'm shedding pieces of the weight I've carried for so long. Pieces of guilt, of shame, of doubt. They're still there, lurking in the corners of my mind, but they don't control me anymore. Not completely. Back at my apartment, Caleb heads straight for the couch, collapsing onto it with a groan. I grab 2 mugs and make hot chocolate the way we used to when we were kids. Extra marshmallows, just enough cinnamon to taste it, but not enough to notice. When I hand him his mug, he smiles. A real one, not the forced kind, and takes a sip. Thanks, sis, he murmurs, his voice soft but steady. For everything. I nod, sitting across from him, and let the silence settle between us. It's comfortable now, familiar in a way it hasn't been in years. For the first time, I feel like I can breathe, like maybe, just maybe, we'll be okay. Not perfect, not fixed, just okay. So here's the immediate resolution. The debt won't disappear overnight, and neither will the danger. But I'm done running, done hiding, done believing I have to carry the world on my shoulders to prove I care. Resolution isn't about tying every loose end. It's about finding peace amidst the chaos, about trusting that tomorrow will come, even if today feels unbearable. And sometimes, that's enough. Would you trade perfection for peace, knowing full well the road ahead won't be easy? Or would you cling to control, afraid of what might happen if you let go? Because the truth is, resolution isn't about having all the answers. It's about learning to live with the questions. Life doesn't reset itself after moments like this. It doesn't snap back to normal just because you faced your fears or made a choice that feels bigger than you are. But things shift, slowly, subtly, like the way snow melts under sunlight without you noticing until it's gone. Weeks pass after that night in the snow, and while nothing is perfect, everything feels different. Lighter, like we're all standing on the edge of something new, even if we don't fully understand what it is yet. Caleb starts therapy, not because I push him, but because he asks for help. He finds a counselor who specializes in addiction recovery, someone who listens instead of judging. At first he resists, showing up late or canceling appointments last minute. But then something clicks. He starts talking about Dad, about the guilt he carries over promises he couldn't keep, about the shame of needing me so much when he thought he was supposed to be strong. I'm tired of hurting people, he admits one evening as we sit together in my kitchen, his voice raw and unguarded. Especially you. Hearing him say that guts me, not because it's surprising, but because it's true. For years, I've shouldered the blame for both of us, believing it was my job to protect him no matter the cost. Now, though, I see how wrong I was. Protecting Caleb isn't about shielding him from pain. It's about trusting him to face it. And maybe, just maybe, that trust will save us both. Mom calls less often now, her tone softer when she does. She doesn't ask for money anymore, at least not directly, but instead talks about small things, recipes she's trying, books she's reading, memories of Dad she hasn't shared in years. One day, out of nowhere, she says something that stops me cold. You remind me of him sometimes, you know. Her voice wavers, fragile and unfamiliar. The way you fight for what matters. It's not an apology, not exactly, but it's close enough. Close enough to make me wonder if she's finally starting to see me. Not as the daughter who left, but as the woman I've become. Dad's letter sits folded neatly in my nightstand drawer, tucked away but never forgotten. I read it every few days, tracing the shaky handwriting with my fingers like it might bring him closer. His words echo in my mind constantly. You saved us by leaving. Saved them? By running away? The idea still feels foreign, impossible even. But somewhere, deep inside, I know he's right. Sometimes love means stepping back so others can step forward. Sometimes breaking apart is the only way to rebuild stronger than before. As for me, I quit sending money home. Not entirely. I set up a fund for Dad's medical bills, something they can access without asking. But I stopped being their emergency lifeline. It wasn't easy. Guilt gnawed at me for weeks, whispering lies about how selfish I was being. But then I realized something. I wasn't abandoning them. I was teaching them, and myself, that survival isn't my sole responsibility. They have to figure it out too. And surprisingly, they do. Slowly, painfully, but they do. The men from the diner haven't come after us again. Maybe they decided we weren't worth the trouble. Maybe Caleb's decision to confront his debt head-on convinced them to leave us alone. Or maybe they're waiting, biding their time until we slip up again. Either way, I don't live in fear anymore. Fear kept me trapped for too long, forcing me to sacrifice pieces of myself I'll never get back. Now, I focus on what I can control. Showing up for Caleb, setting boundaries with Mom, honoring Dad's memory by living the life he believed I could have. One night, as we sit on the fire escape outside my apartment sharing a cigarette, okay, his cigarette, I still don't smoke, Caleb looks at me and says, Do you think we'll ever really fix everything? His question catches me off guard, partly because it's the kind of thing I used to ask myself constantly. Now, though, the answer feels obvious. No, I tell him honestly. But fixing isn't the point. Moving forward is. He nods, thoughtful, and takes another drag before handing the cigarette back to me. Moving forward sounds good, he murmurs, staring out at the city lights below. Even if it's messy. And it is messy. Life always is. But it's ours. Broken and beautiful and unpredictable. We're learning to live with that, to embrace it instead of fighting against it. Because here's the lesson I've finally learned. Transformation isn't about erasing the past. It's about carrying it differently, about finding strength in vulnerability, courage in chaos, beauty in imperfection. And maybe, just maybe, it's about realizing that love doesn't demand perfection. It demands effort. Effort to show up, to stay, to try again even when it feels impossible. Would you trade control for connection, knowing full well the road ahead won't be smooth? Or would you cling to safety, afraid of what might happen if you let yourself truly feel? Because the truth is, growth hurts, but staying stuck hurts more. If there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that life doesn't come with a manual. No step-by-step guide, no neatly packaged answers to the hardest questions we face. What it does offer, though, what it forces us to confront, are moments that strip away everything except who we really are. Those moments don't always feel fair or kind or even survivable, but they teach us things about ourselves we'd never discover otherwise. And sometimes, just sometimes, those lessons change us in ways we couldn't have imagined. One lesson hit me harder than the rest. Love isn't perfect. It's messy and complicated and often painful, but it's also resilient. When I left Maple Ridge years ago, I thought I was breaking something irreparable, a bond too fragile to survive distance, or time or anger. But now I see that bonds like ours aren't broken so easily. They stretch, they fray, they ache under the weight of mistakes and misunderstandings. But they can heal too, if you let them. The catch is, healing takes effort. It takes forgiveness, not just for others, but for yourself. Dad's letter taught me that. He saw my leaving not as abandonment, but as an act of love, a necessary step toward saving us all. That realization didn't erase the guilt I carried, but it shifted it. Instead of punishing myself for failing, I started forgiving myself for trying. Another truth I've come to understand is that strength isn't about carrying everything alone. It's about knowing when to ask for help. For years, I believed being strong meant shouldering every burden without complaint, fixing every problem without fail. But Caleb's breakdown and his eventual recovery showed me how wrong I was. Strength isn't silence, it's vulnerability. It's admitting you're scared, tired, lost, and still choosing to move forward anyway. It's trusting that people will show up for you, even if they stumble along the way. Because here's the thing, everyone stumbles. Everyone falls apart at some point. The difference lies in whether you try to pick yourself back up or let someone else help you. Then there's the lesson about fear. Fear kept me trapped for so long, convincing me that running was safer than staying, that hiding was better than risking rejection or failure. But facing those men in the diner, hearing their threats, and still walking away, it showed me something I needed to hear. Fear only controls you if you let it. Guilt only holds you back if you refuse to release it. Love, on the other hand, gives you permission to be brave, to fight for what matters most, even when the odds feel impossible, even when the cost feels unbearable. These lessons aren't just mine. They belong to anyone who's ever loved someone deeply, imperfectly, unconditionally. Anyone who's ever struggled to balance responsibility with freedom, guilt with grace, fear with courage. Life asks hard questions of all of us. Would you sacrifice your peace to save someone else? Would you risk losing yourself to keep them close? Or would you trust them to find their own way, even if it means letting go? For me, the answer changed over time. At first, I thought love meant giving until I had nothing left to give. Now, I know it means giving wisely, offering support without sacrificing self-respect, showing up without losing sight of who you are. It's a delicate balance, one I'm still learning to navigate. But isn't that the beauty of it? Growth isn't a destination, it's a journey, a constant process of becoming more than you were yesterday while honoring where you came from. So here's my question to you. What moment in your life forced you to grow in ways you didn't expect? Was it leaving someone behind, only to realize you saved each other by doing so? Was it forgiving someone, or yourself, for something you thought unforgivable? Share your story in the comments below, because transformation isn't just personal, it's universal. We all carry scars, but we also carry strength. And maybe, just maybe, sharing our journeys will remind us we're not as alone as we think.